Hey, what's up, everybody? So I'm coming to you this morning with the another new thing I'm doing. It's called the Champions Report. I'm going to go over all the world titles, the alphabet world titles, for each organization, and just look at their champions from 122 all the way to heavyweight. Those are the 12 divisions I cover, and I'm only going to do this maybe every 2 to 3 months. That way you kind of have an update. I'm not going to do it every month. I think that's kind of a waste, but I'm going to give an update every 2 to 3 months on it to kind of let you know what these champions are doing, because some of them aren't ranked in the top 5, and this gets more into detail about what they're doing with their title belts, not just like, unifying and how that works or whatever. It's kind of going to focus on their belt, if they got to make a mandatory or not, if they have a fight scheduled or not, and just kind of break them down. Now, the first one today is going to be on the Wba Regular Championship, which is the World Boxing Association's secondary world title. I know that sounds weird, but the World Boxing Association around 2011, 2012, decided to come up with a world champion as opposed to their main champion, which they later declared the super champion. So the super champion basically does not have to make mandatory defenses. Once in a while, they'll mandate the super champion to fight a #1 contender, but it's usually the regular champion, which they term the world champion, fights the #1 contender, and the super champion pretty much gets to fight whoever he wants. They usually give distinction of the super title based on a fighter's resume and who they've beaten, but that's what they say. There's some guys that have been awarded the super title that had no business being awarded the super title, and we'll get, when we discuss the super championship for the WBA, we'll get into that. But these belts, even though it's a secondary world title, if you're into wrestling, this is kind of like the Intercontinental Championship. It's a legitimate belt. It shouldn't be, but it's a legitimate belt, and it is technically a world title that does have some distinction because it leads to bigger fights, being a world champion these days. So some of them they hand to younger fighters that are trying to move up and make a name for themselves, and some of them are decent name fighters that are just hanging onto that belt to try to get into a super title fight or something bigger. So, but the regular belt does not get recognized to unify, if that makes sense. So like a good example is Shu Kan, the 126-pound champion. I'll talk about him in a couple minutes. He was in line to fight Josh Warrington in a unification bout. They were trying to work it out the whole time last year and into this year. And the IBF, who only has the one belt, decided that the WBA regular belt, they weren't going to recognize that as an official unification belt because it was their secondary world title. So again, it's like the Intercontinental title if you're into wrestling, or the United States title if you're into that kind of stuff. It really shouldn't be a belt, but they did it to make more money and to bring more fighters in and call them world champions. So that's the story behind the regular title. Now, again, guys, if you like any of my videos, shoot me a thumbs up. Yeah, thumbs down too. I want you to be full honest. Subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, whatever. I really appreciate it. So let's get into the fighters from 122 all the way to heavyweight that are the WBA regular champions in every weight class. So we start with the 122 pounds, and that's undefeated, the very exciting Brandon Figueroa. That's the younger brother of Omar Figueroa Jr. And Brandon Figueroa, very exciting fighter, or like his brother, all action, likes to come forward. From what I've seen, a little lacking in the skill department right now, but he's a big fighter at 122. He's coming off of a nice win in September over a low-level competition, Damian Vasquez, and now, where I'm hoping we get to see something big out of him. I haven't heard of the WBA ordering him to fight the #1 contender or the interim champion right now. I would love to see him in the #1 contender as Avanasian go at it, but that's Golden Boy working with PBC. But if it's a mandatory fight, they might make that fight. So I also would like to see him take on Luis Neri, the WBC champion, or really anybody in the PBC that fights at 122, and there's a lot of names there. So I hope he lands a bigger name opponent. I was really hoping for Ronnie Rios because that fight was ordered last year, but it seems like they've gotten away from that. But I want to see him kind of take a step up against a guy like Ronnie Rios, a veteran, and then move forward towards a top 5 fighter. But whatever they do, I hope his next fight is against a good name opponent, and I hope he's ready for that because I like Brandon Figueroa a lot. 126, the WBA regular champion there is Shu Kan of China. Why that guy is not the full champion, I do not know. The super champion, he should be. The guy, you know, he's Leo Santa Cruz was the super champion, but he hasn't fought there in 2 years now. He moved up to 130, captured the super title there, then just got knocked out in October against Gervonta Davis to lose that same belt. And for some reason, 2 years later, the WBA still recognized Leo Santa Cruz as a super champ. So, and I'm shocked by that. Shu Kan should have been upgraded once Leo Santa Cruz decided to move up in weight. But because Leo Santa Cruz is a big name and the WBA is corrupt, they allowed Santa Cruz to say the super champ. So that has affected Shu Kan in a bad way. As I just said, he is not getting the fight with Josh Warrington for a unification bout. Warrington actually gave up the IBF title. So he still could face Warrington next, and it could be just for his WBA regular belt. But I'm hoping the WBA smartens up and upgrades him to super champion because he deserves that. But if they don't, I really don't know if it's going to be Warrington because Warrington's fighting actually tomorrow on DAZN. But maybe Shu Kan, he hasn't fought since November of 2019. Maybe he comes back, takes a tune-up bout, and then goes into a fight with Josh Warrington or somebody bigger in the top 10. We'll see, and we'll keep you posted. 130 pounds, the regular champion there is Roger Gutierrez. Gutierrez just captured the title in a fantastic fight against Rene Alvarado in what was a rematch from a few years earlier when Alvarado stopped Gutierrez in the 7th round, but that was stopped due to an injury. So Roger Gutierrez had revenge on his mind and had his first world title on his mind, and he got it. It was a great fight. He put Alvarado down twice early on. I think it was in the 1st round or the 2nd round. Then Alvarado came back and seemingly was controlling the middle rounds in a close battle. And then in the 12th round, Gutierrez knocked him down. Almost finished him, but Alvarado finished the fight. Now that fight ended up playing the difference because Roger Gutierrez with the 3 knockdowns went on to win a fight, 114 to 113, which means he pretty much lost that. Or no, he won 113 to 112, which meant that the judges gave 7 rounds to Alvarado, but because of the 3 knockdowns and losing 3 points, Gutierrez went on to win the fight by 1 point on all 3 judges' scorecards. So that was just crazy. And the 12th round ended up being the defining knockout. So I knocked down. So Gutierrez, a new champion. I would love to see a 3rd fight between these two. It was really close. It was really good. That just happened at the beginning of January, though, so we're not 100% if that's going to go down, but I hope it does because that would be a great, great matchup right there, and I hope we get to see it, so we'll see. 135, the regular champion there is the undefeated Gervonta Tank Davis. Well, Davis supposedly had a hand injury that he's okay from. It's nothing serious. So they're talking about him coming back in early June. We don't know what weight it's going to be at because Davis holds the super championship at 130 and he holds the regular championship at 135. He was calling out Ryan Garcia. That fight looks like it's cooled off, not really surprisingly. And then, you know, who knows now? Who knows what he's planning on doing and against who? I mean, I hope he comes back and takes on somebody good. I think there are some kind of not big name fighters, but good fighters in the WBA rankings that make sense. But we just don't know what weight class, and hopefully we hear something in the next month or so about who it could be and when it could be. So we'll see. 140, the regular champion is the undefeated Mario Barrios. Well, Barrios just came out just yesterday and said that he's returning to action. He's returning to training camp with Virgil Hunter. We don't know exactly when he's going to return to action, but it looks like he's returning to training camp and he's gearing up to defend his title again. I hope it's against a good name fighter. You know, he's kind of fought low level opposition to this point. Kind of got gifted that secondary world title, and I want to see him fight somebody legit now. So I'm hoping that's what happens in the first half of the year and happens next, and hopefully we hear something soon. He said we could hear something soon about when he's coming back, so we'll see. Very exciting fighter, though. I think he's 26-0, 17 knockouts. So make sure you check him out on PBC. 147, the regular champion is Jamal James of the United States. Well, James just recently got upgraded to regular champ when Yordenis Ugas got upgraded to super champ. So he's been ordered to fight an undefeated Russian fighter named Radkad, I think, Butsayev, I think is the guy's name. He's not bad. He lost the decision to Alexander Besputin, but it was later recalled because Besputin tested positive for a banned substance. Besputin was later stripped of the title. So, you know, he's undefeated, 13-0, 10 knockouts, but Jamal James is on another level right now. I mean, he's coming off his biggest win, dominating Thomas Delorme impressively, and he's now broken into the top 10 at 147, and he's been avoided for the last few years because of his lengthy and awkward style. So, you know, I think he's ready to roll. I hope that fight gets announced sometime soon because I want to see Jamal James back in action. And, you know, hopefully we know, hopefully by, I'm hoping March, April area, we can see him and Butsayev go at it so Jamal James can focus on something bigger in the second half of the year because he's a PBC fighter and 147's loaded with PBC. Next at 154, the regular champion is Arizlandi Lara. So Lara, he last fought in September, beating Greg Vendetti, some unknown optional opponent. We know that after Jamel Charlo won his fight in September that Lara was being considered and likely the favorite, but we've heard nothing of the sort since then. I would love to see Lara and Charlo, because I think that'd be a good test for Charlo to pass right there against a style like Lara's. If he could beat him, no matter which way, he could prove, hey, you know, I'm ready to roll and I'm the absolute best, which I think everybody would pretty much consider him the best now, but it would just be more confirmation. Plus, Charlo's a super champion, Lara's the regular champion. Easy fight to make, but I don't know which way Charlo's going to go, you know. Charlo hasn't said anything, and I'm thinking he might be into making his mandatory against Erickson Lubin while he waits around for the fight that's happening tomorrow night between Brian Castaño and Patrick Teixeira. If Castaño wins, all 4 major titles are with the PBC, and he might shoot for an undisputed fight, but first he'd have to make a mandatory title defense and a rematch against Erickson Lubin to lock in that fight in the second half of the year with Castaño. So I think he's waiting around to see if that's a possibility, and if Castaño loses or it doesn't look possible, then I think he might choose Lara. But we got to see. I mean, Lara is pretty much willing to fight anybody, and if he doesn't get Charlo, I hope he gets somebody good in the PBC, because again, 154 is totally dominated by the PBC. Now 160, we currently don't know the status of the regular championship. Ryota Murata was the regular champion, and when Canelo Alvarez officially vacated the WBA Super Championship at middleweight, Ryota Murata was upgraded to Super Champion. So now, when that happened, that was about a month ago, when that happened, Chris Eubank Jr., the interim champion, was not upgraded to regular champ just yet. They didn't officially announce that. So I'm hoping that that's the case, and that leads to bigger fights for Chris Eubank, but we don't know. The WBA is so unpredictable. They could keep Eubank the interim champ and order 2 other guys to fight for the vacant title. We don't know. I'm hoping we hear something soon on the status of that belt. Now, 168, the regular champion there is David Morrell, an undefeated power punching fighter, 4-0, 3 knockouts, only 4-0. He just got upgraded to regular champ when Canelo captured the super title and gave up the regular belt. The WBA decided to upgrade him as he was the interim champion because he beat Lennox Allen months ago. He beat him, so he was upgraded to regular champion. To regular champion. So now the WBA has ordered Morrell his biggest name fight against former world title challenger and former interim champion John Ryder. That's huge right there. Morrell could bust into the top 10 with a win over Ryder. I think most people would pick Morrell over Ryder. He's got the talent, but he's only 4-0. So I can't wait. I think that's going to be exciting. I hope we hear the announcement of that fight soon, and it's gonna be a really good fight. So pay attention to that. 175, the regular champion at light heavyweight is Jean Pascal, the veteran. Now Pascal, we don't know what's going on with him. I have heard nothing about what he's going to do next. He hasn't fought since December of 19 when he beat Badu Jack by a controversial split decision in that fight where they traded knockdowns. Very close. They were calling for a rematch. It was supposed to happen in May of last year, but COVID killed everything from happening in around that time frame. So the fight was never rescheduled, and Pascal hasn't fought. So I'm hoping a rematch with Jack is still in the cards, but we just haven't heard anything, and I hope we hear something soon because Pascal's older and he needs to cash in on whatever big fights he can, while he still can make things happen. So we'll see. The regular champion at 200 pounds is the newly crowned, I think, Ryan Merhi, or Merdi. He was upgraded from interim champion, really didn't deserve it. Beibut Shumanov was stripped of his belt and for not defending it, and Merhi has moved in. Now, here's where it is significant. Merhi, only one loss on his resume. He has been ordered to fight former two-time champion Junior Dorticos. If Dorticos cashes in on this, he could go right back towards a world title. He'd be the favorite. And Merhi, if he were to beat Dorticos, biggest win of his career, and he shoots straight to the top of cruiserweight with a win over Junior Dorticos. So, big-time matchup. I hope it gets made. We can see what Merhi's made of, and we can see if Dorticos still interested in cruiserweight and wanting to keep himself at the top of that division. So we'll see. And finally, at heavyweight, the regular champion is the undefeated Trevor Bryan of the United States. He is the new champion. He just captured the belt at the end of January with an impressive 11th round TKO over Bermain Stavern, former world champion, in a pretty good action-packed fight. Bryan had been getting put off from fighting what's his name? Manuel Char. That fight never came to play, and finally they last minute they ordered Trevor Bryan to fight Bermain Stavern for the vacant belt, and Trevor Bryan knocked him out, so he's the world champion now. He's not a top 10 guy, but we don't know. We'll see what he is, what they can put him into and what he can get, and we'll see if he, gets any love from anybody. I hope he does. I'd like to see him fight anybody in the top 10. I think they'd be crazy to not fight a guy with an undefeated American to try to build your resume, and he's an exciting fighter, but we just got to wait and see. So that's it, guys. That's the Champions Report on the WBA Regular Championship. I hope you guys understood it, what it means, and I hope you guys check out some of these fighters. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.